So I'm going to need your audience participation. Can you help me with that?
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I go to conferences and I go home and I'm super pumped and then something happens and I lose it all. And I don't want that to happen. So I want to keep the momentum going, so I'm going to require some audience participation from you. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is I have a slide that says every student grows. So every time you see this slide come up, I want us to all say what's on the screen. Can we practice? All right, so I'll go back, and then I'll click.
Every student grows.
You guys are awesome. Great job. Thank you. All right, so it is super important. I am Dr. Temmille Woodward. I am from Coopersville, Michigan, and I'm going to find out who else is in the room in just a second. But our motto for the year in our district has been, every student grows, and it is super important, and I get really passionate, which means I talk fast, so I'm going to try to slow down a little bit. All right, so let's figure out who's in the room so we know who the audience is. So in full transparency, anybody like techie things, right? I tried to include a mentee in my presentation. They don't like Google Slides, that didn't work. I tried to do a poll everywhere. I can only do one activity at a time because I have a free account, teacher life, you know? So anyway, so we're gonna just go old school and raise hands. So, I did try though, because I really believe in that stuff. All right, so if you are a teacher, instructional staff, and in that group, raise your hand real quick. Awesome. If you are a school administrator, raise your hands. If you're a district administrator, raise your hands. And if you do all of these things, stand up. No, I'm just kidding. We all end up doing lots of those things from time to time. So we have a pretty equal mix in here of all three, which is kind of fun. Okay, and the next big question. If you have less than 5 years experience in education, raise your hands. Check on these folks, please. We all know about the teacher shortage, and we all know how many teachers leave the profession in less than 5 years. So seriously, if they just raise their hands, go tell them what a great job they're doing. This is hard work. Okay, if you have between 5 and 10 years of experience, raise your hands. Still, check on them. They're close. They could slip away, and we don't want them to because we know they're great, and we want them to continue. That means the rest of you have over 10 years. Raise your hands if you have over 10 years. Wow. This is the end of my 20th year, which is, I don't know how I got to this point, but come on in, there's a few seats up front. All right, so we have a pretty good mix, a lot of veteran educators in here, which is awesome. Education is not my first career. I was in business before, and then my son was born, and I became a middle school teacher. Any middle school folks? Those are my people. Yeah, so then it was a quick jump to administration, and I've been there for a while, and I've done lots of different things, and it's super fun.
Every student grows.
Hey, good job, thank you. We're gonna keep that energy going. Every single student in our district should grow every year by at least what they're expected to grow. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that. All right, let's figure out where we work and serve kids in our community. If you're an urban district, raise your hand. A few of us, okay, suburban. Good, rural. Again, we're a pretty like third mix, that's awesome. It's good to know that. All right, student enrollment. This is interesting to me, I'll tell you more after we answer the question. If you have less than 2,000 students in your district, raise your hand. 2,000 to 10,000, and more than 10,000. I'm amazed. We really are even split. So Coopersville Area Public Schools is in Coopersville, Michigan. I've only lived there a year, but I understand the context, right? So if you know Michigan, the requirement is to do this. This is where Coopersville is, sort of. We have 2,500 students. But prior to Coopersville, I was in Rock Hill, South Carolina, 20,000 students, and Volusia County, Florida, 50,000 students, Indianapolis Public Schools, 30,000 students. So the magic of 2,500 students is the teachers and the staff, because they all know each other and they've all grown up. And the great thing is they've accepted me into the community, so it feels like home already, which is awesome.
Every student grows.
We gotta believe it. You have to believe it. You cannot listen to anyone that thinks otherwise. You have to, because you have to spread that energy to everyone that you work with. Okay, Who are our students in the districts that we have here in the room? So when you came in, this is no stress. So if you're like, I don't know where to go, it's not a big deal. I'm looking to find out what percentage of your students in your, now, if you're an instructional person and you have a grade level or a classroom, answer from that perspective. I'm not writing the answers down, it's okay. But I'm just trying to get an idea of the achievement and the growth of the students in the room. So, what percentage of your students are at the 80th percentile or higher in achievement? So we'll go quick, less than 10, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, greater than 50. Amazing. It's a pretty even distribution if you were watching hands of who's in the room. All right, now greater than the 60th percentile. So if you're looking at your growth report, or mostly veterans, it's the 60th and up, less than 10%, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, greater than 50. Again, pretty even distribution. So this is applicable to everybody.
Every student grows.
All right, you sounded like you didn't believe it that time. Because we looked at achievement data, did you get a little angst, like teacher angst? Like, oh my gosh, they're not there yet. So one of the things I so appreciate, I felt like the morning was exactly set up for my session, or maybe they chose this because, I don't know. But the belief that learning loss is just really a label is something I'm super passionate about, because it doesn't matter today or when we come back in August, because we all need a vacation between now and then. I know I do. It doesn't matter where students are today. So whatever you said for your achievement numbers, it really doesn't matter. Today, you're not going to do anything different except for to learn and lead and grow yourself so that you're ready for the people that you serve when you go back. All right, what does student growth look like in your district, with your grade level, with your students? So what percentage of our students are growing at the 80th percentile or greater? Less than 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, greater than 50. Okay, so I have been using NWEA since 2011, a long time, and I know how passionate they are about research, and this is an area that if there's any NWEA people in the room, I want to help here. I want to know what norms look like for growth. I can see the expected growth of students. I can see trends of classrooms, but I want to know like norms across the world, like what is typical for growth. Because when I look at our growth, I'm like, wait, something's happening. I want to be one of those transformative 10, you know? Something's happening, and I wanted to see if it's comparable or not. All right, so let's dip a little further into the pool. Students growing at the 60th percentile or greater, so less than 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. This is the last one of these questions. You guys are like, I'm tired, lunch is coming. 30 to 40, 40 to 50, greater than 50. Perfect. Still a pretty even distribution across the room.
Every student grows.
Thanks. My friends from my district are up to here, like, bring the energy. I know. You're like, this is way too much, but it's important. Okay, so let's take a look at our data. I am a data geek. I love it. I've been waiting for the new district profile report to come out. Anybody else? So when I logged on like 3 days ago and they're like, you know, system update, I was like, yes, it's coming. So I've included some of those. If you haven't seen it yet, I feel like I've been wanting this for 10 years or more, because when you work with lots of different buildings, I want to see the whole picture instead of having to snip and snip and snip. So, okay, so hopefully this is achievement from spring of 2023, and this is not for anybody to judge or look or whatever. I'm just sharing trends, and then I'm going to share some of the things that we've done to get the trends that we're seeing, and also hoping to do more of so that we can continue the trends. So this is a year ago. I started July 24th of 23, so I'm almost a year old in the district. And then this is spring of 2024, so 1 year passed. And what I'm super excited about is those green and blue are growing, right? And there's a lot of things going on. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but it's consistently looking at, if I could give you one piece of advice, you're probably already doing it, but stop looking at achievement so much and just focus on growth. Every single child in your district can grow. Doesn't matter where they are now, but they can grow. So I would recommend you spend your energy on growing every student. All right, so let's look at some of the growth. This is all in reading. Actually, our math growth is higher than this, but because our strategies that we used in this school year were all focused around reading and reading intervention, which is what I'm going to dig into a little bit, I put up our reading data, if that makes sense. So K2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We do not use this in high school right now. We only use K to 8. And we have created more consistent procedures. I don't know, anybody have loose testing structures in your district? Or maybe I've been in lots of districts that are. But that's one of the things that we kind of tightened up when we test and how we test and who gets a retake and who doesn't get a retake. All right, this is winter to spring. Same thing. I mean, I feel great about the path that we're on. And the growth that we're seeing, and I'm just excited to share some of that, and then also to see more of it.
Every student grows.
All right, super important. I know you guys are like, really? How many more of these is she gonna have? There's a few. I think it's fun. Okay, so what did we do? Let's get to the meat of some of this. So the first thing is knowing who is on your team, okay? So I think this is the one poll everywhere that worked, so get ready for some more audience participation. We'll see how it works. If you can, click on the QR code. We'll see how it works. It should pop up automatically. It's a word cloud. The question is, what qualities or values do you want your teammates to have? And if it doesn't work, it's not a big deal. We're gonna try it for a minute and then we're gonna pivot just because that's what we do. Did anybody get it to work? Too small? Okay, well, no big deal. All right, so let's share out. What qualities and values do you want your teammates to have?
Positive attitudes.
Commitment, positive attitudes. What else? Flexibility, growth mindset. What else? Collaborative. Critical thinking, creativity. What else? Your colleagues that you work with. Commitment to equity. Yep. What else? Dedication. Yep. Willingness to try and change. Yep.
Ability to talk me off the ledge.
Community. That is like the number one right now, right? We're all just faking it till we make it some days, and it's okay. So talk you off the ledge when you need it. I think this culture piece is the most important piece. If you're always in the work and always in the stuff, you have to stop and build the relationships with each other. So if you find somebody that's like, this is just fluff, you have to say, no, it's really important. So those relationships are huge because the more I get to know you, the more I trust you, the more when you say, hey, I don't think we should do it that way, the more I'm like, okay, well, what do you think we should do, right? So it's super important. Okay, so I talked a little bit about intentionality. We have tightened some of our testing practices. We have consistent use of our data, and I'm going to show you some examples of that in just a second. So we're going to start with reading intervention. Being new in the district, there are lots of opportunities. It's a great district, super phenomenal people, but lots of opportunities of like, okay, what should we work on first? So reading versus math, we started with reading. We just adopted a new reading curriculum this year also. So if you've done that recently, you know, it's stressful. Teachers are like, wait, what? I have to, it's stressful, it's new. So with our reading intervention system, we were collecting a lot of data pieces from a lot of different tools. And then we were making groups We are super resourceful and have resources. So we have in our K-5, so we are all on one campus. That's super fun. 3 elementary buildings, a middle school, and a high school, all within walking distance. It's amazing. Never seen it before, but I love it. Highly recommend it. Within those 3 elementary buildings, we have 3 reading intervention teachers and 14 paraprofessionals that can help. I know, I shared some of the places I've been. I know not everybody has those resources, and sometimes even when you have them, you don't have access to them. So I know that's a point of inequity. I'm just sharing where we're at because it'll make sense of how we've been able to do some of the things with it. So we've used NWEA as our screener. It primarily tells us about our students' ability for comprehension. Does anybody know for the state that you're from that they have a linking study that will tell you what that predictive score is for the state assessment? Yes? I linked ours in the presentation. We're from Michigan. And so we looked at, it starts in 2nd grade because that's pretty much as close as they can go back. K and 1 would be less reliable at that point. So we looked at the score for the fall. That would be that cutoff to predict M-STEP passing. Any student that was below that cut score, we said, okay, this is our next group, okay? Then from there, from comprehension, we looked at fluency. So we used DIBELS. We have started using map reading fluency as well. So it's whatever tool you have. I know we all have a smorgasbord of stuff, but this is the system or the process that we use this year. So NWEA first, if you were below that predicted, we went down a tier and we said, okay, now we fluency tested every one of those students. We know what DIBELS told us was the on grade level expectation for fall. Anybody that was below that, we used the IDI, the Informal Decoding Inventory. Again, we also, I'm sure like you, have a smorgasbord of stuff and tests and things. It took some very collaborative conversations, and we said, okay, doesn't matter which one we use, we just have to agree on one, all K-5. And we have to use it, we have to try it, we have to figure out, like, okay, and then we can revisit it. So that's what we used. So anybody that was below that fluency cut score, we gave the IDI to. We took all of those students, and we put them into, these are the targeted skills on the IDI, and we put all of the students into groups. So this is actually our data. I cut off all the things that would tell you more than you needed to know. But basically, as a collaborative conversation, we identified that this was the cutoff of what was grade level for 1st grade, and then the dark line, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. So you can see the numbers of students that were in the neediest groups when we started the school year. Does that make sense? Questions? Then from there, we took all of these students, and these are the names that you see are teachers, but we took all students, this happens to be 4th grade, and we sorted them based on which category they belonged in. And then we put them into groups. Now, in past years, our teachers have shared students, but we had sort of drifted away a little bit, but we had some great leadership in our 345 building that was like, listen, this is good for kids, we have to do this. We are also a PLC district. Anybody else, Solution Tree PLC? Yeah. So it's super important that we have collaborative teams built into our day. They have, right now, 45 minutes a week that they have collaborative team time on top of their typical planning. Again, I know if I had been in a previous district, I couldn't have made that happen. So I understand if that sounds difficult or impossible for you in your area. We put all the students in the groups, and then we sat with the teacher teams and we're like, okay, who's gonna take a group? And we left it open to them. They stepped up, they took, so PLC model, and really any intervention system that you see, your neediest students should be with your highest skilled teachers. So we did not put, I told you we had some paraprofessionals, they're amazing people, they're not typically highly skilled in our reading instruction or reading intervention systems. So our classroom teachers took the neediest students. And then we did some of the on and above grade level stuff with our paraprofessionals because we had the resource to support that.
Every student grows.
I promise it's just a few more times, but I still think it's important, so it's going to keep showing up. All right. All right, so what is important in our district? We talked a little bit about this. It is super important to our superintendent and everybody that works there that we are great teammates. That means we work together. In our admin team, we have some norms, and one of them is to be brave, right? So have the difficult conversations, have the cognitive dissonance, come at a problem with a solution, but let's figure it out. Another thing that's really important is professional learning communities. I mentioned that. Currently, about 80% of our teachers, please don't audit that number, it's just a rough number, but it's close. 80% of our teachers on our staff been to a PLC at work. It shows the commitment. In many districts I've been in, we start it, and then 10 people go, and then it's on them to come back and bring it to everybody else, and it's hard to keep that motivation. So it's been important for us and the work that we've accomplished to spread that to ancillary staff, support staff, and teachers. And then our admin team collaboratively led a book study around taking action, which is like the next part, the RTI at work part as well. So at the end of the year, this is what our data looked like. So in first grade, we had 76 students that were below grade level. At the end of the year, we had 20. That's a decrease of 73% in 1 year of filling those gaps. It was significant. As we went up, if you notice, like 4th and 5th grade, fluency at the end, and fluency is considered on grade level, and so I still included it, so the decrease doesn't look as dramatic, but what you do notice is you don't see the significant phonics deficits in those upper grades anymore. Anybody else in your district feel like, yes, we have kids in 4th and 5th grade with phonics deficits, right? Thank you for raising your hand, because I feel like that's super important. Now, I also know, because now when I go and work with our middle schools, they're like, yeah, but what are you going to do about the kids up here? I get it, but prevention is the best intervention, right? So right now, we focused for a year on filling the gaps, setting up the structure, so all these 6th grade levels that are coming up would have a system that would fill those gaps or prevent the gaps before they happen.